It's Wednesday of week 1, the first day we get official practice reports for most teams. Let's hope for no surprises. I'm Joe Dolan, and this is the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup for Wednesday, September 7th, 2022.
It's time for the FantasyPoints.com Daily Lineup. Staying on top of the latest news and updates around the NFL. Rise and shine, folks. We're taking the field. Here's your host, FantasyPoints.com's Joe Dolan.
Starting at quarterback in the Thursday night opener is the Rams' Matthew Stafford. Rams head coach Sean McVay said Sunday that Stafford will have no limitations with his sore throwing elbow during Thursday's season opener against the Bills. That's according to Jordan Rodrigue of The Athletic. The Rams have been managing Stafford's elbow all offseason, and the expectation is they will continue to manage it throughout the 2022 season. Now, Stafford is at the point of his career where practice reps don't supersede his health. Though they have indeed taken it easy with him, the Rams have not been worried about Stafford all offseason, though fantasy players and prognosticators remain concerned that this could be a nagging issue for the entire campaign. Until we get confirmation that it is tangibly affecting Stafford's play, he will remain on the QB1 radar on a weekly basis. Keep in mind, it looks like he won't have number 3 wide receiver Van Jefferson in week 1 as he recovers from an off-season knee procedure. Starting at running back today is the Texans, Damien Pierce. What else is new? The Texans list Pierce as their number 1 running back on their unofficial week 1 depth chart released Tuesday. Now, while those depth charts, as I've mentioned on this program throughout the summer, are unofficial and put together by the team's media relations department, keep in mind that the unofficial depth charts typically under-promise on rookies. That's not the case here. Things have been pointing this way all offseason, and there's no way anyone who is watching this right now is surprised. Heck, if you went out onto the street in your city and asked a random person about Damien Pierce, chances are they've got a story about him going in the 3rd round of their hometown drafts. All kidding aside, Pierce has had an extremely impressive summer and has earned this job. The big question is how much he'll play on passing downs, given Rex Burkhead is still around and excels in that department. The Texans are 7-point home underdogs to the Colts in week 1 and stand to be underdogs in the vast majority of their games this year. So Pierce's passing game role is crucial to returning value on his skyrocketing ADP. At fantasy points, we have him as a week 1 running back 3/flex option until we really find out what his role is. At our running back spot, our other one, we have a backup, but an impressive one. Undrafted rookie Jaylen Warren is listed as the number 2 running back on the Steelers' week 1 depth chart, Teresa Varley of the Steelers' official site reports. Now, under Mike Tomlin, the Steelers have traditionally had one back dominate carries, so Warren isn't likely to get many snaps, even though the Steelers have talked about cutting Najee Harris's role a bit. But even if Warren is merely a backup, this is still so notable. He appears to be the top handcuff for Najee Harris, and the Steelers are one of the very few teams that allows us a true handcuffing opportunity if you are wired to do so. It's not typically me, but you do you. Remember that Harris dealt with a mild Lisfranc sprain this preseason, so he's not immune to dings and dents. Warren is undersized at 5'8" and 204 pounds, but he has good short area burst and likely would provide a little change of pace and a spark in the event the Steelers want to give Najee a breather here and there. Benny Snell, the plottiest plotter who ever plotted, is the number 3 running back. Our first wide receiver spot goes to the first rookie drafted at the position. Falcons rookie Drake London was spotted at Monday's practice, Michael Rothstein of ESPN.com reports. London had not practiced since injuring his knee in the Falcons preseason opener on August 12th. Now, per 92.9 The Game's Joe Patrick, London was a full participant in the portion of practice open to media today, meaning Monday. Note, it was an unpadded practice, and the players were just doing some formation/alignment walkthroughs. But it's as good of an indication for him that we've had since he left that Lions game. Given London was out there on a Monday, though, it's probably a good sign for his availability in week 1. Who knows why Coach Arthur Smith, when talking to reporters just before the practice, had to be so vague about London's availability. when he knew that they'd just see him out there in a few minutes' time, but coaches are going to coach. Now, for week one, we have London relatively buried in our projections. The Falcons are 5.5-point underdogs to the Saints, but London just hasn't gotten that many reps with starting quarterback Marcus Mariota. Nonetheless, there is a ton of opportunity for London here, and if he shows well in week one, it's possible he's on the wide receiver 3 radar going forward. At our other wide receiver spot is someone who might not play in week one. The Bucs' Chris Godwin was spotted at Monday's practice without a brace on his surgically repaired right knee, Greg Allman of The Athletic reports. Now, Godwin was still wearing a non-contact jersey, which puts his week one availability in question. Here is what our Dr. Edwin Porras had to say about him. The only modern example of a pass catcher returning to NFL game action at 8 months post-ACL op is Rob Gronkowski. Gronk played just 52% of the snaps and averaged 11 PPR fantasy points per game for the first month, until he ramped up and finished as the equivalent of wide receiver 9 on a points per game basis. Now, Godwin himself was non-committal during an interview this week when asked about his chances of playing in week one. He responded, "I don't think any of us know that yet." Godwin later added, quote, "I would love to be there for the entire season, but I think what's more important is being there for the second half of the season." Godwin, just 8 months removed from ACL surgery, all but confirmed that he won't be involved, if active at all, in week one with these quotes. This illustrates that Tampa Bay would like to get close to the 9-month rule of thumb before throwing him out there. The chances of Godwin being active without taking contact were always pretty low, but if Godwin somehow does play in week one, he's likely going to be a wide receiver 3, while being more than that later in the season. In our flex spot, we have another player coming off an ACL repair. Cowboys coach Mike McCarthy said Monday that wide receiver Michael Gallup won't suit up for Sunday's regular season opener against the Buccaneers, nor will he practice leading up to the contest. That's according to Michael Gelkin of the Dallas Morning News. Hey, it's as if someone predicted this. Here is what that man again, Dr. Edwin Porras, said about Gallup just a few weeks ago. Gallup was not placed on the PUP list, but the reality is that his week one availability is highly unlikely, and this move is to ensure he is legally able to participate in on-field drills. At just 7 months post-op, it would be incredibly risky to throw him out there. In fact, outside of Jerry Rice's ridiculous 3-month turnaround, which we talked about last week, there are no recent cases of a pass catcher returning at 8 months and playing more than 50% of the snaps following a torn ACL. Lastly, all of the data shows that the safest return after an ACL tear comes at 9 months. That's not to say the research dictates what the Cowboys will do. In fact, there's no telling what Jerry Jones will ever say or do. But the objective odds of a safe and fantasy-relevant return prior to late October or early November are stacked against Gallup. In the interim, the Athletic's Bob Stern believes the Cowboys, with their thinner receiving core and weaker offensive line, are a prime candidate to use a lot of 12 personnel this season, as they did before tight end Blake Jarwin suffered a career-ending hip injury early in 2021. Stern writes that rookie tight end Jake Ferguson is going to play a lot more than people think. Jarwin played 37 snaps a game in those first 7 games of 2021 before he got hurt, and Dalton Schultz played 56 snaps a game. I, meaning Stern, would be willing to bet that we should look for 36 or so 12 personnel snaps a game from the Cowboys early in the season. In other words, who is your third receiver early on, and why didn't Dallas go chasing a veteran wide receiver in the spring or summer, knowing that Michael Gallup might rejoin CeeDee Lamb very quickly? I am convinced the Cowboys are thinking the answer is Ferguson as a second tight end. This is obviously a situation to keep an eye on in the event that the rookie Ferguson impresses. It might mean fewer snaps for rookie wide receiver Jalen Tolbert as well. I'm Joe Dolan, and this has been the Fantasy Points Daily Lineup, and it will air every Tuesday through Friday during the NFL season. Remember to like this video just by hitting that thumbs up down at the bottom, and subscribe to the Fantasy Points channel for the Daily Lineup and all our videos. And I love reading your comments, everybody, so please continue to throw those out there. Now, if your fantasy draft is over, that doesn't mean your roster is complete. At fantasypoints.com, we'll help you make your roster as strong as it can be with our articles, tools, and projections. And if you're looking for the best waiver, trade, and start-sit advice, our standard package will cover you. But if you're a DFS nut or like making prop bet and against the spread bets, our premium package is the one for you, and we are launching a prop finder very shortly. I got a sneak preview of it, and it rules. But both packages will give you access to our subscriber Discord with a direct line to our staff. Whatever you choose, use code LINEUP22 for an extra 10% off any package. Welcome to the 2022 NFL season, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.